All right, Unplugged Army, thanks for listening to just simply interview number 2. That's it. We've had tight end coach Jason Mons join us, and now we've got Shawn Lauvao. He is the former offensive lineman for Arizona State, bounced around the NFL, and I'm going to start off with an apology, Shawn. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this anymore, but I'm a Redskins fan. And the fact that you were there in the Daniel Snyder years, I just feel like we should all apologize, all of us, that we weren't able to get you a good owner and let you really experience what Washington football fans are like.
You know what's funny? I love Washington. It's kind of unfortunate what's going on right now with the season.
Yeah.
Jaden and Dan Quinn. I think Dan is a phenomenal coach. If anything, I think it's just the whole thing, just kind of seeing it is painful right now because I feel like they're literally on the up and up, and then now it just comes back to reality.
Now that Daniel Snyder's gone, I'm just still so happy and happy with last year. But I admit I've always been worried about Jaden. I said going into the draft, I'm a wannabe general manager. I said I thought he was the best quarterback in the draft, but I wouldn't have drafted him anyway because I get afraid of those quarterbacks, and I actually compared him to RG3, where I think there's just not a lot of meat on that bone. And they're unbelievably athletic. They're gamers. They're tough, so they're going to throw themselves into the fire. And I don't think that body stature is the type that needs to be thrown into the fire. So I was worried this would happen, to be honest.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunate that it happened. If anything, I did play with RG3. The one thing I will say with Jaden is very fast in processing things on the field. So I feel like he does see the field really well. I feel like he has, obviously, a good supporting cast and a good support system there. I think, if anything, like you said, it's just more – football is 100% injury, so I think for him, his biggest takeaway is to protect himself.
Yes.
Because I could tell, like, a lot of times he's going to want to make a play, but sometimes if it's not there, I was like, hey, man, you could just throw the ball away.
Now, when you were growing up in Oahu, could you play baseball? I don't understand why you couldn't teach RG3 how to slide.
I think it's funny. I think guys are just kind of programmed a certain way. Like when they have the ball and they see the ball, they just want to take off and run as fast as possible. The difference is, like, everybody in the NFL is very fast and very physical. So sometimes it doesn't play out the way you want it to. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thanks for coming on. How's the family?
Family's good. I'm actually in my daughter's playhouse. So forgive me for my background. This is where my daughters play at. There's a few sunshines and smiley faces and whatnot. So you're kind of curious at what the background is you're looking at. That's what you're looking at.
I wasn't until I see it now. Here, let me. I have the ability to pull away my.
You can see more, like, just kind of.
Oh, look at that! I was actually afraid that was a speaker behind you that had the sun on it, not just a picture. I was very, very impressed. So tell us about life after football. What are you doing?
Oh, shoot! Once I got done playing, I got married. I had kids. I know I briefly said it. I'm domesticated. I got 2 girls, 4 and 2, so I'm in the thick of it. It's been good. I think, if anything, sleep is probably non-existent. It's a little chaotic in my house right now, so I was happy I could kind of run away and talk to you, so I appreciate it. My wife is saying, like, where are you going? I was like, I got to go make a phone call real quick. I'll be back.
Oh, good. Well, we'll just keep you all night, and then you're set. The number one piece of advice that you would give to somebody that's got a pregnant wife that is about ready to enter into your world, what have you learned in the last 4 years that you never had any idea?
I think just whatever your wife wants to do, I was like, just be in agreement. I was like, regardless of how you're feeling, I was like, she's the one, doing everything. So I think, if anything, if you can lend a hand, be supportive, I think those are, like, simple things. Like that's almost like a non-negotiable, where I was like, whatever your wife wants to do, I was like, especially to carrying your baby, I was like, yeah, you should probably listen to what she says. So I'm a pretty good listener. So for the most part, I was like, my wife is super sweet. So, I'm real fortunate in that regard.
Well, I was going to say, then clearly she is a very supportive wife. And I knew that because that means, by your answer, you knew she was going to watch this or listen to this at some point. So therefore, that was brilliant of you to throw that out.
I don't know. We'll see what she says.
She'll appreciate it. All right, best moment on any sideline in your career, whether it was high school, whether it was ASU, whether it was Cleveland, whether it was Washington. What was the best sideline story you got?
The best sideline story? That's a good question. best side, like just on the sideline with coaches or players, or what do you mean?
It could be anything. It could be joyful. It could be a funny fight that broke out. It could be a moment where you were down by 20 and came back in 3 minutes. But I don't care what it is. Whatever you remember as, man, this was a great sideline story that you were either a part of or you saw.
I feel like I've probably had several situations where, like, things are going bad, players are mad, coaches are mad. So I probably have a few instances where you literally have to break up fights between players and coaches. Those are things I find funny. People are like, why would you say that's funny? Because I was like, it's just funny because, in the heat of the moment, tensions are high, people are mad at each other. So if anything, it's just one of those things you want to win so bad. And sometimes when it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. So I think for me personally, just kind of see where coaches are passionate about what they do. Players are passionate. So to kind of see, people getting in each other's faces, I think those are things I find, people might think I'm a little messed up funny.
The common fan has no idea, do they? I mean, the common fan has no idea how often that stuff happens.
No, that stuff happens more often than you think, but it depends. So I feel like for the most part, if you are a professional, I was like, which a lot of guys are, the majority of guys, I was like, it's your job, it's your profession, so you care. So, it's a different dynamic in the NFL when you're dealing with grown men. I was like, these are men who are married, who have families. So, say for instance, if a coach is talking to you to a certain way, you might kind of look around and say, I was like, are you talking to me? So I was like, but a lot of times, guys, most of us have enough humility where we're like, listen, all right, well, tell me. I was like, tell me, what did I do wrong? And then, from there, you just correct it and fix it and move on. But it depends. If you're losing and you're losing bad and you see the score and, the coach is just kind of chirping or whatever, it's not a recipe for success. Should I say, if I could say that?
Let me make sure I have my timeline down. So my old radio show, the Doug and Wolf Show, started in 2007. I started doing a pregame show for for ASU, but that was it in 2008. And then 2009 was my first year as the sideline guy. And I was the sideline guy for 10 years, 8 years, whatever it was. So I think my first year on the sideline was your last year there. Is that right? 2009?
Yeah, that's probably right. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't even know. I'm laughing because I was like, that shows where I'm at, dude. I didn't even know we had a sideline report.
You're the O-line, You think about it. In radio, sadly, even though I love line play, sadly, what do people want? They want quarterbacks and receivers and all the divas. So I'm interviewing those guys after, name a time the sideline guy pulls you aside after game. Shawn, that was a big win. Remember those 8 blocks you had that were just fantastic, you guys get ignored.
No. Yeah, never that. Even like the ones in the NFL, it typically would just be kind of preseason type stuff where, if you're not playing, you'll just go talk to the sideline reporter. But for the most part, I was like, it's funny because I'm just kind of focused on the game. Okay, did I do my job? I was like, what's the series, things like that. How much are we down or how much are we up, stuff like that. So just kind of more the ebbs and flows of the game is probably what I'd probably be more in tune to. So this has been a little more refreshing for me to get, just to get another perspective.
Now, did you ever play? I don't remember you doing it, but I'm asking, did you ever play center?
I probably started one preseason game at center.
Okay.
Yeah. In the NFL, but I was in college, I played guard and tackle.
Yeah. I'm asking because explain, obviously the team doesn't even have their starting quarterback anymore, but how often do you have the luxury of Jeff Sims? It's amazing. But the loss of Ben Coleman for ASU, that's got to be huge. Just explain to everybody that's nice enough to listen to me what the center does besides throwing a ball between their legs.
Well, the center's responsible for a lot of the calls, across the offensive line. So just kind of getting everybody on the same page. And I think the one thing that's tough about that too. It's at least from my experience, I played with a lot of different centers where I was like, a lot of times the center is kind of the glue in terms of just getting everybody on the same page and having everybody kind of see what the look is and just making sure communication across the board is on point. And even then too, with the quarterback, if you have a young quarterback and you happen to be, somebody's a little more veteran type, that kind of helps just with the operation in general. So big loss with Ben not being out there, but I think Sanga Tuitela, the online coach at Arizona State, he's been doing a phenomenal job in terms of just kind of plug and play and then, getting guys to where they need to be.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that how good
It is
their
crazy.
record is, considering quarterback, center, rarely having their top 5 draft pick at wide receiver, and then you look at the defense. I mean, this team is getting rocked by injuries, and yet technically they're still alive in the race.
Which is kind of crazy. It's funny because I went out there to go watch practice. So I think for me, just as a former player, just kind of seeing how Kenny's been able to just kind of, just adapt. I don't even want to say improvise because that'd be insulting. I was like, and coach. I was like, Kenny's a real teacher. I was like, everybody he has on staff has done a tremendous job in terms of like just teaching, slowing the game down for guys to really help them understand. And this is, I've had this conversation before where I feel like it's different for players nowadays where, if you're coming out of high school, you might have, 2 or 3 years to kind of figure things out. But now when you're getting recruited out of high school, which is even less now because of the transfer portal, it's very interesting because they want guys who are already developed and they already know what to do. So it's kind of more plug and play versus like, oh, hey, you can take a redshirt year. You can kind of take your time and learn. I was like, no, it is very competitive, especially if players are getting compensated now. So that's a whole nother conversation we can have. But it's just interesting because, the expectation is still very high, but at the same time, you have to be very realistic because I was like, these are still young men. That's the other part people kind of lose sight. This is just for college athletes, women and, men and women. I was like, it's just sometimes people forget that part of it.
Especially when you're a 19-year-old millionaire and everybody expects you to be a 35-year-old adult with your money. And that's almost a sickness unto itself. So bringing that up, explain to me a quarterback lineman relationship in college. Again, it wasn't like that you were getting paid like crazy in college, but I can't imagine what it's like for a millionaire 19, 20-year-old college quarterback being told how you have to treat your offensive linemen. You need to buy them the same dinners that the quarterbacks in the NFL are doing, and everything like that. And they don't know this. It's got to be crazy. I don't know what you know about that relationship already, but you've had to have heard some crazy stories about college quarterbacks trying to, I guess, fit in with their linemen like they're expected to, but this kid, the first time he's seen money, he doesn't want to share it.
What's funny? I'm not even mad if like a quarterback is just like, nah, I can't do that. But I think it's different now because guys have marketing deals. So like that's the other component. So I would assume Arizona State does a good job in terms of using, what's in proximity, just like local vendors. I'm assuming like you've said, there's just people you work with and deal with. I'm assuming it's the same situation with Arizona State. So I'm pretty sure, Sam and Jeff have, done something at least, not to my knowledge, but I'm assuming you'll take care of your guys because that's just kind of, that's almost like that's something you need to do because I was like, it just goes hand in hand.
I had a funny opinion last year, and I'd love to have you weigh in on something when you are 400 times more of an authority on the opinion of Islanders than I will ever be. But last year, I don't know whether it was Noah Fafita's mom or whether I think it was Tetaroa McMillan's grandma. I can't remember who it was, but one of them was making this gorgeous lei for the U of A head coach before every game. So he would wear this gorgeous lei and then lose by 30 points. And all of the continental U.S. white guy U of A fans are screaming at him all year. Take the lei off. You look like an idiot. It doesn't belong on you. We're losing. And so it became a win-loss thing. While he's looking at it as a beautiful cultural signal, I'm not going to tell this grandma, stop making that for me. He's going to wear it. And I just wanted to know, granted, you're an ASU Islander, so you might have opinions of U of A in a funny way. But what's your opinion on that when somebody that looks like they've never seen the sun in their life is wearing a lei every weekend and now the fan base is screaming at him when it's kind of a nice gesture?
Well, a lot of times when they're doing that, that's just more of a sign of respect. It's a gift, just we appreciate you. That's what it means. That's kind of what it signifies. But that's pretty funny. I hope that keeps happening at U of A. I think that's hilarious. I hope they keep booing them. I hope they just keep saying like get rid of it and all this. But no, the lei is more just kind of more of a celebratory type deal where, you're just kind of giving tribute, just paying your respects is what it means typically. And a lot of times, at least for my culture, I was like, it's more for celebrations, like a graduation,
Okay.
Just things like that where, you come together with your family and stuff like that. So
What's the key to recruiting anywhere in Polynesia? But obviously your expertise would be knowing about recruiting in Hawaii, because that state is so small population wise, and yet it is always producing talent.
Yeah. I think if it, it's funny. It's more from a fundamental perspective where I was like, it's still the same thing. The things that matter: relationship, community. Being kind of tapped in and connected in that regard. So it's funny because I live in this interesting world where, as a former player, I'm still around the program and stuff. So you're trying to figure out different ways how you can add value and help. So for me, if I find any Polynesian players, I'm always, I was like, hey man, just give me your phone number. I was like, if things don't work out to wherever you go, I was like, hey, just know. I was like, there's another option. So
that's good. What do you think of ASU so far this year?
I think they've done a good job, just like you said, just in terms of with the injuries, which has been kind of insane.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a tremendous job of just kind of being able to adapt and just kind of make it go. I thought, the win against Iowa State was just, phenomenal. The guys gutted it out. I think the one thing people don't realize, I was like, football is a very hard sport, and to win consistently is very hard. So to see what they're doing is impressive given the circumstance. I think
I love your perspective on that, because think about it. Everybody that's a fan would have assumed if you picked one game, you would have gone Texas Tech because they were higher ranked, they were undefeated, blah, blah, blah. And yet you went to Iowa State. How come?
That just tells, I think the one thing people don't realize, I was like, that tells me a lot about a team. I was like, it's easy when you're like, you can get hyped up for like a game like that. This is a top 10 opponent. I was like, it's a home game. You know what I mean? It's a big conference game, stuff like that. But I think just kind of more the character of a team, being able to overcome adversity. I think that's the one thing people don't necessarily realize about football. That'll tell me very quickly, like, who are you? What are you about? What does this look like? What does it even mean to you? So seeing stuff like that, I was like, that's probably more, I think it's just kind of like the parallels in life and football, where I was like, when things aren't going your way, I was like, what are you going to do about it? So
yeah. It's funny just hearing you talk. Think about this. Granted, every school has a story, but just in remembering your career, I'm thinking of what's gone on in the last 15 years or so at ASU. I'm going to give you 4 names. I'm going to watch you laugh when I say all 4 names, because none of this fits together. Dennis Erickson, Todd Graham, Herm Edwards, Kenny Dillingham. I mean, how different extremes can one program go through?
It's a lot of extremes. So it's kind of it's kind of a head scratcher for me, because even when I got here initially, I was under Dirk Cutter. Dirk Cutter was the one who recruited me out of high school. Then I had Dennis Erickson. Dennis was more of a player's coach. And then when I left, a lot of guys were telling me Todd Graham was here, and people have their opinions. And then obviously with Herm, I was like, that's a whole nother thing as well. So I think it's funny because I feel like this has always been a talented area, but it's just being able to get somebody where I was like, somebody who's from here, somebody who knows the environment, somebody who genuinely cares, I think is the other part,
Yeah.
So, I could hear the conviction in Kenny's voice when he's talking to guys, because he's like, he loves this place. So, to see the success he's had, that's not surprising. I think for me, it's just more how quickly it's kind of, he's been able to flip it has probably been more impressive.
Oh, and then, I mean, I think it's crazy, even if this was a squeaky clean program, to go from the Herm Edwards, Ray Anderson decision-making process and have the looming sanctions forever. And yet, I mean, Kenny walks in thinking I at least have a bowl game as a carrot. And I think they were in camp 3 days, and he was told, okay, you're not going to a bowl game. Wait, what do I have to do with that? And yet still Big 12 champion in 2 years, and at least still competing for one this year. That is insane. Go back to your point about him. What is it that you like about him that you would say as a college kid, I would want to play for him?
He's genuine. I was like, I've been around enough coaches where you could just tell they're just kind of BSing you or just full of it. So it's hard as a young man kind of going into a situation where, oh, okay, I think this person has my back. And then you go and then, they say one thing, they do something else. So that's the part where in terms of building trust, it's very hard. So to see somebody where he's kind of laid the foundation, he has an actual plan of, what he wants to do. I think that gives you as a young athlete, just kind of a clearer vision of, what are you doing? Where do you want to go? What are you trying to accomplish? I think those are easy selling points. And the other thing too, I was like, he is he can coach ball. That's one thing I've been saying. He is a good ball coach. So, I'm kind of like, I'm laughing because I'm like, dang, this dude can coach. So it's cool to see. I'm obviously I'll use this is the easy example, Sam Levitt. So you have somebody where who's sitting at Michigan State where like they didn't even really give him a shot. They just said like, go ahead, you can leave. And I'm laughing because I was like, this dude will probably be a first round pick within the next year. Depending what his decision is this year. But
yeah, boy, I hope he comes back. I think because he's had some rough games at the beginning, and I think he slipped into the second round. But I do think he's got a first round mentality. And another year under Kenny Dillingham, you're simply going to learn. But I understand from his point of view, he might be thinking, okay, it's still a lot of money to turn down. And I'm another year older, which means I'm later, harder chance to prove that I deserve a second contract. And then lastly, if he decides to come back, we have no idea what the receiving core is going to be like. I mean, there's so much change, but I kind of trust Kenny Dillingham. It's easy for me to say as a 50-year-old dude, but I would trust Kenny to say bring in the right guys because he always seems to.
No, for sure. I think for him, I was like, yeah, those are obviously things he'll have to kind of weigh out and, sit with his family, sit with whoever's kind of, advising him, whatever his infrastructure looks like. But I still think he's a dynamic player, but I just use him as an example where I think the one thing that Kenny and everybody on the staff does a good job is belief. I think sometimes, you as a player, you just having somebody where they believe in you, having somebody who actually take the time to teach and develop you. I think those are different components that sometimes I feel like nowadays I was like people it's almost like a lost art where sometimes people just choose result over process.
I would imagine that the hardest thing about the NFL life is actually playing in the NFL. But what's number two? I mean, when you got in there and the dramatic difference of this is your job, this is your life. It's not even remotely like college. What would you say was the second hardest thing about the NFL life itself?
Time management. Just realizing you don't have time. There's not enough time in the day. So in terms of just the social life or just kind of having time for yourself, I was like, you basically live in the building. And when you're off, it'd be more like you're just doing stuff for your body or, probably going to sleep or, whether you're getting extra film or whatever it might be. So the one thing I'd say like time is the one thing I'd say like there's not. Yeah, it's the time management component.
That's a fascinating answer because I have to think you're raised to do your job, Shawn, do your job. Don't worry about anybody else. But how do you not sit in the locker room and know this guy doesn't put the time in that I do? This guy certainly does, but he's not getting anything out of it. So maybe he's got to work. I mean, it's got to be so hard not to judge everybody in the locker room when you know you're not supposed to.
No, I wouldn't even say like that would never cross my mind because I was like, yeah, because the last thing in my mind I was like, why would I judge another play? I was like, there's enough crap going on. I was like, me piling more stuff onto you. I was like, that's not going to do anything. I'm like, I still got to worry about myself. I was like, am I still going to even have a job? I was like, did I do everything? Oh, I think I did.
Well, that makes sense because I'm wondering. I don't think you were in the league still when Kyler got his second contract. I know you were. I know you were still in the league when he got drafted. But I'm dying to know what other NFL players would have thought when they hear about the famous Kyler clause. If I find out my quarterback has a clause in his contract that says you will spend 5 hours a week or whatever it was working on the game plan at home, I would have lost my mind. Like, wait. They need to put. What do you do? That would have driven me. That's kind of what I meant by judging. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in football.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the contract in front of me, and I haven't seen the clause, but every club is different. I was like, they can put in there, they can put in there what they want because at that point you're just trying to protect your investment. So, however they might have phrased it, it might have been interpreted in one way, but maybe it meant another thing. So, I can't speak on that, but no, I hear what you're saying though, and I think it is kind of funny. I always think it's crazy.
On the flip side, this will challenge you. Who is the best leader you ever played with?
The best leader I've ever played with. The best leader. That's a good question. It's interesting because everybody has different leadership styles. That's what I will say. So I think it's kind of a loaded question.
Okay.
But No, I'm actually like sitting here like, let me really like the best leader. You know what's funny? As when I was in Cleveland, so I got drafted by the Browns in like the third round. As bad as we were, I was like, there was a ton of talented players, and like the type of players where they're like not only talented but very selfless.
Okay.
So I can list like a bunch of dudes where I was like just true professionals, like in every regard. Joe Thomas is up there, DeQuell Jackson's up there, Ben Watson is another one where these guys were guys who not only said it but they lived it. So like those were like really cool examples to see. Unfortunately, we weren't able to put things, together. I mean, obviously, they're still struggling now, so that part's pretty funny to me.
I can easily see your mind going there. I mean, the famous. I got to remember what it was, but like 12,000 straight snaps or whatever the crazy Joe Thomas record is.
Yeah.
He never missed a snap in some 11, 12, 14 years or whatever.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah, he's definitely up there in terms of just kind of leadership qualities where I was like, okay, tremendous leader, phenomenal player. So he's up there. I'm trying to think, like, that's kind of a hard question because like there's just different qualities every guy brings where like it'd be one thing if I was on a club where I had the same quarterback like every year, but that's never been the case. I've had like
and maybe that's why you unfortunately bounced around. If you have a stable environment, maybe it would have been a little easier.
Yeah, because when I was in Cleveland, I think I had like 10 or 12 different quarterbacks, and then when I was in Washington,
weren't you there for 3 years? That was it, 3 or 4?
No. So I was in Cleveland for 4, and then I was in Washington for 5.
10 quarterbacks in 4.
Well, yeah. Well, like in 4, because like if I actually go down, I'm like
that is so Cleveland.
No, it's so Cleveland. And then even when I was there, like in my 4 years, I had 3 different head coaches, so that's not.
Do you ever just sit and think about it? You said that so matter of fact, and that's insane.
That's the truth, though. It's not like I'm like, oh yeah. I was like, no. I was like, I literally had 3 different head coaches, 2 different owners. Yeah, because
that's right.
Yeah, 2 different owners.
This is. I would never ask this to anybody else because it sounds like an insulting question, but it's so funny after you say that.
No, it is.
Do you think any of the Cleveland Browns head coaches knew? Like, if they saw you right now, would they know who you are? If they're only there for a year, you were more.
If I saw them in the street, I probably wouldn't know who they were. So I was like, that's a 2-way street. It's not like, player. I was like, you coached? I was like, I could do this. Yeah, no, that's pretty funny.
That's classic. All right, last question. Talk to every either high school dad or high school football player because it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing. If you want to dream of a college scholarship and an NFL career, what do you, as an offensive lineman, what do you need to be working on when you're only 14, when you're only 15? What's important when you're young to still love the game, but to kind of start stepping up and getting above the fray?
Well, the one thing, I mean, I tell this to kids now was like, it's the same components, your preparation, just kind of being prepared for the moment. I think sometimes now, like just what I was kind of alluding to earlier was like, I think people, especially with social media, I think it's just a different climate where people see something on TV and they just assume. I was like, oh, I'm going to go do that. But I was like, not realizing, I was like, there's a whole in between where I was like, you still have to go take time to go like prepare and learn. And like, that's okay. If you're not very good and, at the beginning, that's okay. I was like, you can still grow and develop. But I was like, that's time. That's the other part of it. It's the time component. So the one thing I'd say is just kind of, being prepared for your moment. But the flip side of that is like, in order to jump on the opportunities, to make sure you're prepared for it. So I would challenge guys just to kind of not fall into like thinking like something's going to happen. I was like, you literally have to like make a, that's an everyday decision where I was like, okay, am I doing something to get better? So it's a crazy thing. It's very fundamental. I'm laughing because it's the same in the NFL. It's the same in college. It's the same in high school. I was like, there's just kind of fundamental, principles you still need to kind of stand on. And I think sometimes that kind of gets lost, in this interesting time we live in.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, hey, this was money. I'd love to talk to you anytime you're available, but I don't want to drive you nuts. And I'm sure people that listen to my show, the Unplugged Army, man, they loved having you. So my best to the family, and hopefully that you might have gotten off duty.
Yeah, no, this was good, Doug. I appreciate your time. And like, let me know. I always love talking life, talking ball, man. There's certain things I just love, and football's one of them. Football's kind of like that girl that doesn't like you back, and that's how I feel about it. So,
well, good. At least you're devoted. You're more devoted than she is. Then,
very true.